This is Reggie speaking about Healing America's Narratives, which is the 2020 book subtitled The Feminine, the Masculine, and Our Collective National Shadow, Becoming More Fully Human. And today I'd like to have a conversation about conversation. Definitely in the last decade, but for some years, probably even prior to the last decade, the quality, the sincerity, and the authenticity of conversation has deteriorated, definitely in the United States, but globally as well. And some of the things that we've already spoken about in this podcast, this video series, influence our ability to speak honestly and authentically in conversation. Things like cultural givens, the worldviews that were given in birth, childhood, and even early adolescence, and ongoing basis by the culture at large. So that's one. Beyond cultural givens, everything from developmental worldview to personality to various other factors and experiences in our lives affect what we believe and how we behave in conversation. So we're going to speak about all of this stuff, not in this one particular episode. But some of the specific elements of conversation, beyond talking points, if we're really committed to doing more good than harm in conversation, some of the things that we need to avoid are sweeping generalizations, meaningless labels, obviously insults. Now, there's a time and a place where labeling something makes sense. We don't have to rediscover what a tree is every time we walk into the woods. Say, I wonder, there's one of those things again. Using that label is fine. And lots of other more relevant examples would be fine as well. But when we use a label to characterize large groups of people, here's the easy one. When a politician says, what the American people want is, all right, so who are they? Who is that person talking about? The American people. So there's this one thing with which all American citizens agree, right? So the same thing happens if you say the Democrats do this, the Democratic Party does this, the Republican Party does this, progressives blah, liberals blah, conservatives blah, all right? So what we'll work on getting more nuanced at is in our own conversations, getting to be very, very specific and thoughtful with our language, the words we choose, and in conversations with others in a curious, right, not conspiratorial or arrogant way. When someone uses a large generalization, simply ask. So when you say this word, when you say American, when you say liberal, when you say conservative, what do you mean by that? When you say woke, when you say cancel, anything. Because very often, many of us, repeat language that we've heard and we think we agree with. But when gently questioned about it, we really don't know what we're talking about. So you don't want to say to somebody, you don't know what you're talking about. What we're trying to do is get curious and be in conversation that does more good than harm. Right? So this is a kind of a vast, I should be so lucky. That's a relatively brief overview of what we'll be doing in the next few episodes. If you want, more on this, in 2020, the book that preceded Healing America's Narratives, I'm not trying to sell a book here, but I wouldn't mind it, is entitled Enough with the Talking Points, Doing More Good Than Harm in Conversation. And it's compared to Healing America's Narratives, I forget what this is, it's about 108 pages. So it's a briefer volume. So again, we want to do more good than harm in conversation. And just so we're clear on why this is important, across the board, not equally, both political parties in the United States, the Republicans and the Democrats, deliberately use language that's charged and at times intentionally misleading. I would argue, and I tried not to do this in either book, Enough with the Talking Points or Healing America's Narratives, at this stage of the game, definitely in the last 8 to 10 years, the Republicans are professional at this. The current state of the United States Congress is the best example, where there are people there who just say things that literally aren't true, and they grandstand, and they're more concerned with getting their tweets retweeted, or whatever they call them now, their X's re-X'd, than in actually governing the country. But both sides do it in to various degrees. I am saying that both sides do it, but by no means are both sides doing it equally nowadays. So we're going to take a deeper dive into this. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.